Have you ever looked at someone and wondered why? Why do they keep drinking when it's clearly costing them so much, maybe everything? The answer isn't about willpower, and it's not some kind of moral failure. So let's get into it. We're going to break down the powerful biological trap that makes just stopping so incredibly difficult.
This quote from Dr. Nicole Labor, wow, it really just gets right to the heart of the matter, doesn't it? It shows us that at a certain point, the drive to drink isn't a rational choice anymore. It becomes a biological imperative. It's as powerful, as non-negotiable, as your body screaming for water when you're dying of thirst.
So that leaves us with this huge puzzle, right? Why would a smart, rational person trade their family, their job, everything they care about, for a drink? Well, to get it, we have to look past judgment and actually see what's going on deep inside the brain. This isn't a question of character, it's a question of chemistry.
And the answer, it turns out, is hiding in our brain's most ancient, most powerful systems, the very ones that are designed to keep us alive. This isn't a battle of wills. It's more like a neurological ambush.
Think back to that desert scenario. When a craving gets that intense, the primitive part of our brain, the midbrain, just starts screaming for survival. And in that moment, the frontal cortex, the part that holds your values, your love for your family, your goals for the future, it basically just goes offline. Logic, it's not even accessible.
Now, to really understand what's happening, we need to talk about something called homeostasis. Your brain is an absolute master of balance. Its main job, day in and day out, is just keeping everything stable, right at a set point where you feel normal and content. Anything that messes with that balance is going to trigger a really powerful response.
So what happens when we throw that whole system completely out of whack? Well, introducing a chemical like alcohol is basically like declaring war on your brain's natural state. And believe me, the brain always fights back. So let's imagine your emotional state is like a perfectly level seesaw, okay? This is your baseline, your everyday feeling of just being okay. This is your brain's happy place. This is homeostasis.
Now you have a drink. Alcohol is a depressant, so it artificially pushes one side of that seesaw way down, deep into pleasure and relaxation. Scientists call this the A process. And yeah, it feels good, but your brain immediately senses this imbalance, and it sees it as a major threat. So what does it do? It launches this fierce counterattack, the B process. It floods your system with stimulants and stress hormones like cortisol. But here's the thing, it doesn't just push the seesaw back to level, it overcorrects. It shoves it way past neutral and deep into the other side, into pain, anxiety, and irritation. And that is the source of the hangover, the withdrawal, and the craving.
And this brings us to what might be the most important rule in all of brain chemistry. Captured perfectly by neuroscientist Judith Grisel, there is no free lunch. Every single high you get from a substance has to be paid for with an equal and opposite low, one that's engineered by the brain's own counterattack.
It's right there, in that counterattack, that the neurological trap is set. Because with repeated use, the brain doesn't just react anymore. It starts to anticipate. It learns.
And this is the absolute crucial shift. The whole reason for drinking completely flips on its head. You're not drinking to feel good anymore. You're now drinking just to escape that awful, anxious, miserable state that your own brain created. You're drinking just to feel normal again.
This quote, it gives you such a raw, visceral look into what that internal monologue feels like. The midbrain just takes over, and it drowns out every other thought with a single, desperate command for relief. The rest of the world just fades away.
In this process, it very quickly becomes an automatic loop. It all starts with that constant, low-grade anxious feeling, because the brain is stuck on the pain side of the seesaw. Then some cue in your environment, a certain time of day, a place, a feeling, it triggers a learned response. And that leads to an intense craving, as the midbrain screams for the only solution it knows. The drink gives you that temporary relief, but, and here's the trap, that very active relief reinforces the entire pathway, making that loop even stronger and harder to break the next time.
Okay, so if drinking eventually just becomes a way to escape this chemically induced anxiety, why do so many of us believe it actually helps us relax or have fun? Well, this is what we can call the great deception of alcohol.
Just look at the belief versus the reality here. We believe alcohol relieves anxiety. But the reality, it creates a state of chemical anxiety through the brain's counterattack. The drink only feels like a relief because it's temporarily quieting the very problem it created a few hours before. It's like someone selling you a poison and the antidote in the exact same bottle.
And what about socializing? We think I can't have fun at a party without it. But in reality, alcohol is just hijacking the credit for the natural pleasure our brain makes when we connect with people. And even worse, if you try not to drink but you feel deprived, that feeling of deprivation actually stops you from relaxing naturally, which just reinforces the false belief that you needed the drink all along. It's a vicious cycle.
So after seeing how the brain gets hijacked, how that pleasure-pain balance gets totally broken, and how our beliefs get twisted, where does that leave us? What is this compulsive behavior really? Well, if we put all the pieces together, we can finally see what the hook really is. It all starts with the brain's simple drive for balance, homeostasis. Alcohol rewires that whole system, forcing the brain to anticipate it and fight back harder and harder. Pretty soon, your motivation completely shifts from chasing a good feeling to desperately trying to escape a bad one. And this becomes a deeply learned survival response, where drinking continues even when it's causing devastation because on a primal level, it feels as necessary as breathing.
Neuroscientist Mark Lewis puts it so well here. Think about it like water carving a canyon. Every single time that cycle repeats, it cuts that neural pathway just a little bit deeper, making it the brain's default path until it feels almost impossible to take any other route.
And all of this leaves us with a really profound and frankly a very difficult question. When the brain has been changed this fundamentally, where does personal responsibility end and biological compulsion begin? Is this a disease that literally robs us of choice, or is it a deeply learned behavior that, maybe with the right knowledge, can actually be unlearned?
That central tension, that question, is exactly what we're going to be investigating next. We're going to dive into the science and the arguments on both sides of this debate in our upcoming explainers, tackling whether this is a disease, a choice, or maybe something else entirely. Thanks for joining me.